On this field trip, we're going to an empty corner of eastern Utah called the Sinbad country. It's part of the Colorado Plateau, a land of sedimentary layers that have been uplifted without being much tilted or often torn. In the Sinbad, erosion has peeled back strata to reveal two types of igneous intrusions: dikes that cut across sedimentary layers and sills that pry between the layers. Unlike massive igneous bodies such as batholiths, dikes and sills are relatively thin tabular features. We'll see that dikes and sills are chemically similar and probably came from a common magma source. Both dikes and sills are injected as molten magma, hot enough to bake nearby rocks during intrusion. These igneous rocks and their adjacent bake zones stand out because erosion has dissected away the surrounding sedimentary strata. The Sinbad is about as empty gets. There isn't much vegetation to hide its anatomy. Cedar Mountain rises only 800 feet above the surrounding desert, not high by Utah standards. 8 inches of rain might fall in a good year, but storms that do sweep through are often powerful and gradually scour away the relatively soft sedimentary ridges. Hebus Mountain, like Cedar hidden behind the veil of rain, resists erosion because it's capped by a harder layer of basalt. Cedar Mountain is a riot of colorful sandstones and siltstones, all formations within the Jurassic San Rafael group. What do you think about all those narrow black structures poking up through the sedimentary layers? Deep within the Sinbad, many muddy miles from any highway, there lies an unexpected surprise. 4 million years ago, a swarm of black dikes ripped through this country like cracks racing across a shattering windshield. Erosion has since stripped off about 1 kilometer of overlying sedimentary strata to expose these tabular intrusions in remarkable detail. 153 basaltic dikes are exposed over a 20 by 60 kilometer swath that stretches from Hebus Mountain south to Capitol Reef National Park. As magma forced its way toward the surface, pieces of adjacent sedimentary rock were broken off and incorporated into a jumble called breccia that contains fragments of both sedimentary and igneous rocks. On average, the dikes are just over 1 meter wide. The magma was hot, 11 or 1200 degrees Celsius. At the margins where magma was in contact with the cooler surrounding rock, it quickly chilled into a fine-grained basalt. But temperatures at the center of the dike cooled more slowly. Magma in the middle had a little more time to grow into larger crystals that now weather into a rubbly material that looks different than the margins. Magma only flows if it remains liquid. Knowing the rate at which a meter of magma would cool, it's possible to calculate that each dike was probably injected over a span of no more than hours to days. Heat from the injected magma baked the sedimentary rocks bordering dikes. In some places, these bake zones were hardened enough to also resist erosion, just like the basalt of the dike itself. Can you pick out the bake zones in the margins of this exposed dike? In the Sinbad, where sedimentary layers remain horizontal, dikes are vertical or near vertical intrusions. Here a thin dike cuts up through the Somerville Formation, transecting a thicker horizontal sill. In this country, both the dikes and sills are made of olivine-rich basalt. For all intents and purposes, they're chemically indistinguishable. The dikes often cut through sills. Their similar ages and chemistries argue that the dikes fed the sills, but geologists are still looking for clear-cut examples of a dike flowing seamlessly into a sill. Some of the sills are thick, up to 30 meters, and like the dikes, have bake zones at their top and bottom margins. The bake zones are sedimentary rock, not igneous. If these rocks had formed under more pressure and had remained hot for a longer period of time, what sort of rock might they have become? Well, possibly metamorphic. But they didn't. Sills form fairly close to the surface because as they inflate, they have to lift whatever rock lies above them. For this to happen, the magma's pressure has to be greater than the weight of the overlying layers. This cliff on Cedar Mountain exposes horizontal threads of a dark basalt, all searching for the easiest way to squeeze between the lighter sedimentary layers. Most of the threads failed to grow, but eventually one strand of magma did swell to form the larger sill at the top of this picture. Can you imagine why the strand that did grow was higher than the ones that didn't? As a sill or dike propagates, it has to somehow wedge into country rock. Flowing magma following an existing fracture or bedding plane might split into two channels. But elsewhere, rock can act more like an unbroken block. Then thin reeds of liquid magma have to pry their way through a solid mass rather than following existing fractures. The mechanics of fracturing dictate that forces are concentrated right at the tip of a new crack. Here fractures in the country rock are visible, created by the leading edge of an intrusion. The Sinbad country is complex and it's hauntingly beautiful. It holds geologic secrets for those willing to go out and explore. The margin of a dike cools faster or slower than the center, causing crystals to be smaller or larger than the center. In the Sinbad country, as elsewhere, the margin of a dike cools faster than the center, causing crystals on the outside to be smaller. The Spanish peaks in southeast Colorado also display igneous dikes. Which is younger, the dikes or the surrounding mountains? It may seem obvious, but the dikes are younger. It's important to place geologic events in their proper order. Relative dating is a useful tool that helps interpret a landscape's history. There's more about this in the chapter on geologic time.